Welcome back to Inside Sources. Greg Skordas alongside Marty Carpenter. And Marty, I don't know whether you're aware of this, but I will disclose something before we start and get too far along, and that is I was involved in the selection of the attorney to represent Tyler Robinson, the man that's accused of killing Charlie Kirk.
I believe I read that.
And yes, and so in that involvement, I just have to say, so I'm not representing the state, I'm not representing, the prosecution, not representing the defense. I've just helped the county get good, competent counsel, and I'm sort of done. But because I appeared on that case, and because I actually appeared in court one day on behalf of the county, a lot of people saw me and thought that I was involved in the case. And I've gotten some of the most bizarre phone calls, emails, and texts from people who say, this is a conspiracy. He wasn't killed by the guy that's been charged. There was a drone flying over at the time. He wasn't there at the time. I mean, people are just coming off the wall, and as though I have a dog in the fight. I mean, I'm like, I don't care, but I mean, I get them almost daily from people who are, and they're supported by this and that, and they've got footage and they've got witnesses and they've got all this stuff. So I was really interested to hear what's happening here with this influencer. What's her name? Candace Owens, who I'm embarrassed I don't know that name. She's made some accusations that Phil Lyman had a hand in Charlie Kirk's UVU murder. Our governor is up in arms about it. Of course, he and Lyman ran against each other a year ago, and in a somewhat contentious election. Nonetheless, Cox has been clear that he's a bridge builder, so it doesn't surprise me that he stands behind Lyman. Lyman's furious and sort of bring it on, but can you just get us up to speed on this? I'm not familiar with this.
We should probably start here because if you don't know who Candace Owens is, then it's fair to assume that some people listening may not as well, so let's give you some update. Candace Owens, I think you would call her a very conservative to even far-right social media presence. Influencer is probably a great way to put it. Sort of a pundit who didn't necessarily appear on any of the TV networks, but has kind of built her own platform. Just to give you some indication of what her audience is like size-wise. On YouTube, she has 5.33 million subscribers. So then add on to that whoever listens to her podcast that's audio only and where she appears on all of her various social media. And to give you some context, NBC Nightly News averages around 6 million viewers. So she has 5.33 million subscribers. Her last videos, and in fact the video that we're going to talk about most specifically, was posted, 3 days ago, and it has 3.2 million views to this point.
She's
you're talking about
deal.
That's you're talking about audiences obviously for television network television news have shrunk with the invention of cable news and then with YouTube and so on, the proliferation there. So her audience is sizable, and then you can compare it to what a nightly news audiences are there. So she's fairly right, and I would say that a lot of people would say in the last couple of years maybe has gone even more to the right and become conspiratorial in a lot of instances. I don't profess to know like everything she's ever said about stuff, but I'm just giving you just the general perception. So yes, you've summed it up pretty well. There are people in her audience. And certainly she now has made allegations that the person who has been arrested and charged, he's been charged, right?
Right, he's been charged, yes.
Tyler Robinson was, she claims it was not the killer. And then she went beyond that to say, so I'm just going to read it from the Deseret News story because that's like the most succinct way I think you can put it. She has made unfounded accusations against former Utah gubernatorial candidate Phil Lyman related to the murder of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, which happened, of course, on September 10th at Utah Valley University. I think that's whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to get into much more of like what she's saying. It's on YouTube. If you really want to go see it, you can go watch it. The part that sort of became interesting is if there are two politicians that have sort of been at odds going back to the most recent gubernatorial election and the primary really leading up to the most recent gubernatorial election in 2024, it's Governor Spencer Cox and the man who challenged him, former House Rep Phil Lyman.
Right.
And
no, that election had lawsuits, had joint conferences with the Democratic.
Sure, and allegations from Phil Lyman's side saying, hey, there were improper things that were done in the Lieutenant Governor's office or the elections office.
Absolutely,
and so on and so forth. And I think people are relatively familiar with that history. The interesting thing about this then is you've got Candace Owens attacking Phil Lyman, and from what the story kind of outlines, and you can go read it at DeseretNews.com, that she had requested some videos from him because I guess he was there, or at least the story indicates that he was on campus and had met with Charlie Kirk that day, and he didn't send them to her. It seems to be the general flow of the story. And then she just sort of opens the floodgates on him and jumps to where essentially accusing him of being part of it.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts.
And from the reporting in the Deseret News, not offering any real evidence as to why she would do that, which is a pretty dangerous game to play. Now, the story also goes and includes that even though Spencer Cox and Phil Lyman don't see the world the same way, that Spencer Cox comes to the defense. Governor Cox comes to the defense of Phil Lyman. This is what he posted on Twitter. He says this, I have to say there are few things worse than having people make up lies very publicly that destroy your integrity. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I don't believe Phil Lyman has anything to do with Charlie Kirk's death, and neither should you. That's the end of his tweet.
So I have to wonder why he prefaces it with, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, as though he's saying, for example, I know he didn't say that. He clearly came to the defense of Phil Lyman. I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
There is the ability to say something without saying it.
Right.
And so, those, if you've written some gubernatorial statements in your life, I can tell you that you put some thought into these and exactly how they're worded. I'm not saying that the governor necessarily did that, but if he had tried to do that, he did it very well.
I don't believe Phil Lyman had anything to do with this, with Charlie Kirk's death, and neither should you. So that's what are we hearing from Lyman?
He had responded primarily to Candace Owens herself.
He said she's the antithesis of an investigator or something like that.
Yeah, essentially saying she didn't have any kind of investigative prowess in this. And then, quote, Candace, you have questions, so do I, but yours are not questions. They are mocking, slanderous libel. When you're ready to have an actual conversation rather than just grandstand, please give me a call, close quote. It's probably much ado about nothing in the end, but never fun to come in the crosshairs of someone that has that kind of platform, and probably good to respond to it and say, you've either got something to say here or something to back up what you're saying here, or you should just not say it at all.
Yeah, the conspiracy theories will continue in this case, Marty, and it, notwithstanding that, I don't know the strength of the case, but the strength of the case outlined by the prosecutor in his press conference, that Jeff Gray, the Utah County Attorney, seems to be that the state has a fairly compelling case. I mean, we'll see. But I've had calls just very similar to what we're talking about here.